Weed. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man what he knew not. Allah, the Creator, brought the universe into existence in 6 vast periods, stretches of time that, by our measure, span billions of years. Everything that the All-Wise created, He established upon laws, visible and invisible, by which the universe operates. Every particle, every star, every force follows a precise command, measured and ordained with purpose. The All-Knowing designed these laws of nature so that the universe functions in perfect harmony, not only to sustain life, but to invite the human mind to reflect. And when man contemplates these laws, when he peers into the mysteries of the cosmos, he begins to see the signs of his Creator. Even within the tiniest quark of a single atom, he finds the presence of Allah, the Everlasting. Imam al-Ghazali wrote, "The pursuit of knowledge is among the highest acts of worship, as the study of the natural world is a path in knowing the Creator." Science is simply the discovery of the laws by which Allah governs His creation. Ibn Rushd argued that to study the universe is to read the second book of God, for the Qur'an and nature both speak truth. And al-Biruni, one of Islam's greatest scientists, said that investigating the order of the cosmos deepens one's awe of the Almighty. Our solar system is now what we are going to see with lens of the Qur'an and science. The solar system is composed of the sun, planets, satellites, asteroids, and comets. The most distant planet belonging to this system is around 40 times the distance between the Earth and the Sun, about 6 billion kilometers away, whereas the farthest edge of the solar system is around 100 times this distance. According to modern astrophysics, our solar system came into existence around 5 billion years ago. It was born from the remnants of a massive stellar explosion, a supernova. When a star reaches the end of its life, its core collapses and its outer layers are hurled into space, scattering clouds of gas and dust enriched with heavy elements forged in its fiery heart. What remains behind is a vast gaseous nebula, the raw material for new worlds. Over immense periods of time, gravity began to draw the particles of this nebula together, gathering them around a dense center that became a nucleus of attraction. As matter continued to collapse inward, the temperature and pressure rose until a new star, our Sun, ignited at its core. Around it, smaller concentrations of gas and dust formed, gradually merging into rocky bodies about 10 kilometers across, known as planetesimals. Through countless collisions and the pull of gravity, these planetesimals coalesced into the planets that now orbit the Sun. In the past few decades, astronomers have discovered hundreds of similar systems beyond our own. Planetary families circling distant stars, known as exoplanets. Most of them are giant worlds of gas, while a few are small and rocky like Earth. In some regions of the cosmos, the planets never solidified, remaining as colossal spheres of gas, much like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in our own system. Each planet settled into its orbit, moving with perfect precision around the newborn Sun. Some leftover planetesimals, scattered by gravitational forces, drifted to the outer reaches of the solar system, forming vast belts of icy debris. These are the comets, frozen travelers that occasionally fall back toward the Sun, glowing with long, luminous tails as they briefly visit the realm of light before vanishing again into the deep. The Sun is a nearly perfect sphere of blazing plasma, a sea of charged particles so hot that atoms exist only as ions. It is the ultimate source of energy for all life on Earth, with a diameter of about 1.4 million kilometers, roughly 109 times that of our planet. the Sun alone contains 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system. Around 3/4 of its mass is hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. The remaining quarter is mostly helium, with traces of heavier elements such as carbon, oxygen, neon, and iron, the very ingredients that later formed planets, oceans, and life itself. The Sun spins slowly on its axis, completing one rotation in about a month. But this rotation isn't uniform. Its equator turns faster than its poles. From its surface, streams of charged particles are constantly hurled into space, carried by powerful magnetic fields. These solar winds sweep across the solar system, sometimes intensifying into massive storms. When such storms reach Earth, they can disrupt satellites, power grids, and communications. Yet, our planet is protected by a powerful magnetic shield, the Earth's magnetosphere, which deflects these dangerous particles and preserves life beneath its invisible armor. The Qur'an mentions the Sun 33 times, always as a visible sign of Allah's creation, a source of light and order in our daily lives. It is described as a radiant lamp, an object that emits its own light, in contrast to the moon, which merely reflects it. Both are given distinct roles, each moving precisely within its ordained path. As the Quran says, the sun and the moon move by precise calculation. This verse alludes to the perfect harmony of celestial motion, the measured courses of the sun and the moon that allow humanity to mark time, count days, and construct calendars. The Quran places great emphasis on the destiny of the sun and its role in the final events of the universe. Several verses describe the stages the sun will pass through as the end of time approaches. In Surah At-Takwir, the Quran portrays a dramatic vision of cosmic collapse, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ, when the sun is folded up and when the stars fall, losing their light. This imagery describes the dimming of the sun and the fading of the stars, a moment when the universe itself begins to unravel. Now, science tells us the story of our sun. The physicist Hans Bethe explained the process at the heart of the sun, nuclear fusion. In this process, hydrogen atoms fuse together to form helium, releasing colossal amounts of energy. In essence, billions of hydrogen bombs are igniting every second within the sun's core, transforming a small fraction of its mass into pure energy. This continuous nuclear cooking not only powers the sun, but also forges heavier elements, the very building blocks of planets and life. Every ray of sunlight that reaches Earth carries the energy born from this cosmic furnace. According to astrophysical calculations, the sun still holds enough hydrogen fuel to shine for another 5 billion years. The sun functions as a vast, self-regulating thermodynamic system. Deep within its core, a delicate balance is maintained between two opposing forces: gravity pulling inward and the pressure of nuclear fusion pushing outward. Gravity constantly tries to compress the sun into a smaller, denser sphere, while the immense energy produced by fusion resists that collapse, pushing outward to keep the sun stable. Whenever gravity gains the upper hand and the sun's core begins to contract, the pressure and temperature within rise according to the laws of thermodynamics. This rise in temperature accelerates the rate of nuclear fusion, generating more energy and causing the core to expand again. As it expands, it cools, slowing the rate of fusion and allowing gravity to once again tighten its grip. This continuous interplay between contraction and expansion is what sustains the sun's perfect balance, a state known as hydrostatic equilibrium. In this steady furnace, roughly 4 million tons of matter are converted into heat and radiation every second. But this balance is not eternal. Over billions of years, the sun gradually consumes the hydrogen in its core. transforming it into helium. When the hydrogen supply drops too low to maintain fusion at its current rate, the internal pressure decreases, and the core begins to contract once more. The rising temperature then triggers a new phase of fusion, helium nuclei combining to form carbon. 3 helium atoms fuse together to produce 1 carbon atom, releasing an enormous burst of energy. Unlike hydrogen fusion, this process does not unfold gently. It ignites suddenly and violently throughout the core, an event known as the helium flash, marking a dramatic transformation in the life of the Sun as it moves toward its next and final stages. When the Sun's core explodes in its final stages, an extraordinary transformation begins. The immense energy released causes the Sun to swell to more than 100 times its original size. Its outer layers expand and cool, turning its once golden light into a deep crimson glow. At this stage, the Sun will become what astronomers call a red giant, a colossal dying star. Some astrophysicists predict that the Sun's expansion will engulf the inner planets, consuming Mercury and Venus, and perhaps even reaching Earth's orbit. Whether the Earth is swallowed or scorched, the sight from afar would be apocalyptic, the sky torn apart and painted in shades of red, as if the heavens themselves were bleeding. The Qur'an describes this scene with striking accuracy. Then when the heaven is rent asunder and becomes red like red hide. And in another verse, and the sky will split apart, for that day it will be frail. As the Sun draws dangerously close, the Earth's atmosphere will begin to disintegrate, stripped away by the intense heat. Without this protective veil, the planet will be left bare and lifeless. The Qur'an captures this moment as well, and when the sky is stripped away, this verse captures a vivid image of the sky being peeled away, as if the protective layer surrounding Earth were removed. In this context, the term heaven can be understood as referring to the atmosphere itself, the thin veil that shields life on our planet. It may also refer to the broader heavens, a meaning that I will explore further in another chapter. The Sun may remain in its red giant phase for thousands of years. During this time, traces of hydrogen in its outer layers might continue to fuse, but this process will not last long. Once all the hydrogen fuel is exhausted, the Sun will begin to collapse under its own gravity, shrinking into a small, dense, and extremely hot object known as a white dwarf. In that final state, its size will be smaller than Earth's, its diameter only about 10,000 kilometers. Composed mostly of compressed carbon, the dying Sun would resemble a gigantic diamond glowing faintly in the dark of space. The Qur'an refers to this moment of collapse with a powerful word, takwir. In Surah Al-Takwir, Allah says, when the Sun is folded up. According to the classical Arabic lexicon of Ibn Faris, the word takwir means to roll or fold something upon itself, as one would roll a turban. This imagery strikingly aligns with the Sun's eventual fate, folding in upon itself as its layers collapse inward, spinning into a dense and compact remnant. The Qur'an does not state that the Earth will unite with the Sun, but it does clearly mention that the Sun and the Moon will be brought together, and the Sun and the Moon are joined together. This verse may allude to a stage in the Sun's future when it expands into a red giant. During this time, the Moon, which orbits the Earth and often aligns with the Sun during the final day of the lunar month, could move closer toward the swollen star. The description is strikingly precise, as it captures the image of the Sun and the Moon appearing united in the same celestial path, possibly during the final moments of their existence. The Qur'an tells us, "And the Sun runs its course toward a fixed destiny. That is the decree of the Mighty, the All-Knowing." This verse does not merely describe the sun's motion through space, though it indeed travels through the galaxy. Rather, it speaks of its progression through appointed stages, a journey toward its ultimate destiny. There are also profound prophecies from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, concerning the fate of the sun in the end times. The first is a hadith describing how, on the Day of Judgment, the sun will be brought near to the earth. Modern astrophysics already anticipates a similar event, when the sun, after exhausting its nuclear fuel, expands into a red giant and approaches the Earth's orbit, possibly engulfing it. The second hadith mentions that one of the final signs of the hour will be the sun rising from the west. This statement has long puzzled scholars and scientists alike. Could it mean that the Earth's rotation will reverse? Or might there be another explanation? To understand it, we must remember that what makes the sun appear to rise from the east and set in the west is the rotation of the Earth on its axis. The direction of this rotation, from west to east, gives us our cycle of day and night. Therefore, for the sun to rise from the west, one of two extraordinary events must occur. Either the Earth's rotation reverses direction, or the sky itself, our frame of reference, shifts in a way that makes the sun appear to rise from the opposite side. Modern science acknowledges that a reversal of Earth's magnetic polarity has happened many times in geological history. The North and South poles have switched repeatedly. This process, called geomagnetic reversal, happens when the flow of molten iron in Earth's outer core changes direction. While a magnetic flip doesn't directly mean the planet's rotation reverses, it indicates that the deep internal dynamics of Earth can change drastically. If, under extreme gravitational and solar conditions, such as during the sun's final phases, the Earth's internal balance were disrupted, it could theoretically alter the planet's axial stability or rotation rate. There is another possible explanation rooted in orbital mechanics and perception. As the sun approaches its final stages, it will expand immensely, releasing massive waves of plasma and energy. These bursts will distort the magnetosphere, the invisible field shielding Earth from solar radiation, and could cause a violent atmospheric reaction. Imagine the western horizon, suddenly illuminated by a colossal fiery glow as the swollen sun fills nearly half the sky. To an observer on Earth, it would look as though the sun is rising in the west, not because the Earth has reversed its spin, but because the sun's size and brightness have overtaken the sky from that direction. This cosmic upheaval is described in the Qur'an with remarkable precision. When the heaven is split asunder, and listens and obeys its Lord, and it must do so. And when the earth is stretched forth, and casts out all that is within it, and becomes empty. Dr. Basil Altay writes that here, the sky being torn apart and the earth being stretched forth evoke an image consistent with modern expectations. As the sun swells, Earth's crust and atmosphere will undergo immense stress. The surface could melt and expand under the rising heat, and the molten interior could spill out as if the Earth were casting out what is within it. Another verse offers even greater detail. When the sky is cleft asunder, when the stars are scattered, and when the seas are burst forth. This vividly describes the disintegration of the solar system. As the sun's gravity changes during its red giant phase, the orbits of the planets will become unstable. Some may drift away, others may spiral inward and disintegrate. The Earth's oceans, under extreme heat, would evaporate and explode into vapor, exactly as the verse describes. And in another passage, the Qur'an says, "On the day when the sky will be like molten brass, and the mountains will be like tufts of wool. This is a strikingly accurate portrayal of what the sky might look like when the sun becomes a vast, fiery red sphere filling the heavens. Its flares and plasma storms would make the sky appear like boiling metal, like molten brass. Meanwhile, the heat would vaporize rock and dust, reducing the mountains to floating particles, like tufts of wool. I will discuss the phenomenon of the sun rising from the west in greater detail in a later chapter, inshallah. Iraqi physicist and philosopher Basil Al-Tayi made an intriguing attempt to calculate the possible time when the entire universe would enter a state of chaos, the day of doom. The Qur'an says, "On that day, we will roll up the heavens like a scroll of writings. Just as we produced the first creation, so shall we reproduce it. That is a promise binding on us. We truly uphold our promises." Building on this, Al-Tayi referred to another verse in the Qur'an that mentions a day equivalent to 50,000 years and used it as a symbolic measure for the collapse of the universe. If one takes that duration, 50,000 years, as a cosmic timescale and multiplies it according to the Quranic indication that each day equals 1,000 years of our reckoning, the resulting figure is staggering. By his calculation, the duration of the universe's collapse would span approximately 17.7 billion solar years. Modern cosmology estimates the current age of the universe at around 13.8 billion years. According to Al-Tayi's reasoning, this means the universe could begin its collapse in roughly 4 billion years, a time not far from the predicted death of the sun, when it will expand into a red giant and eventually shrink into a white dwarf. From this, Al-Tayi concluded that when the sun begins its final collapse, what the Quran describes as takwar, or the folding up of the sun, it will mark the beginning of the universal collapse, the big crunch foretold in the Quran. However, he cautioned that such calculations are not definitive predictions, but symbolic interpretations, meant only to show that the Quranic description of the sun's end aligns remarkably with the beginning of the universe's final return to its creator. The calculation is certainly fascinating, but in my understanding, the two verses that Dr. Basil Al-Tayi used refer to different timelines and contexts. Both compare divine time with human time, but they describe distinct realities. One verse mentions that a day in the way of the angels ascending to Allah equals 50,000 years of our time, a measure of cosmic distance and divine order, while another verse says that a day of your Lord is like 1,000 years of what you count, referring to the unfolding of the day of judgment itself. These verses highlight different dimensions of time, rather than offering a single numerical scale. However, the Quranic verses and hadith we have discussed clearly indicate that the explosion of the sun will mark the beginning of the day of doom. According to modern science, the sun's natural life cycle would take billions of years to reach that stage. But it's difficult to believe that the final hour would take that long to arrive. Perhaps some external event or divine intervention will alter the sun's natural course. It is also known from authentic narrations that Dajjal, the false messiah, will tamper with time, causing days to stretch and distort. This could be a part of that greater cosmic disturbance. Allah knows best. We will explore this mystery in greater detail in another chapter, inshallah. Another celestial body of the solar system frequently mentioned in the Quran is the moon, the Earth's only natural satellite. Unlike our planet, the moon has no atmosphere, and as a result, its surface is scarred with countless craters formed by meteorite impacts over billions of years. It also lacks a magnetic field, since it has no molten core, and its surface is blanketed with a layer of fine dust created by constant bombardment from space debris. Gravity on the moon is about 1/6 that of Earth, making everything on its surface weigh significantly less. The Qur'an refers to the moon 27 times, often alongside the sun, describing both as creations made subservient to humankind. The sun's role in sustaining life is obvious. It provides light, warmth, and energy. But how is the moon subservient to us? One clear answer lies in its role as a natural measure of time. The moon's phases form the basis of the lunar calendar, one of the oldest systems humans have used to track months and years. Beyond its use in timekeeping, modern science has revealed that the moon is essential for life on Earth. Its gravitational pull produces tides that keep the oceans in constant motion. These tides influence climate stability and nutrient cycles, and in the early history of Earth, tidal pools along the coasts may have served as the cradle of primitive life. The angular size of the moon, as seen from Earth, is almost exactly the same as that of the sun, which is why we experience total solar eclipses. This remarkable coincidence means that, at certain times, the moon perfectly covers the sun's disk, producing one of the most awe-inspiring sights in nature. If the moon were even slightly smaller or farther away, such total eclipses would never occur. A delicate balance that highlights the precision of cosmic design. The light of the moon, as the Qur'an beautifully points out, is borrowed light. The Qur'an describes the sun as a source of light and heat, a lamp, while the moon is described as something that reflects or shines with light. Modern science confirms this distinction. The sun emits its own light through nuclear fusion, while the moon merely reflects sunlight from its surface, illuminating our night sky. Another fascinating feature of the moon is that we always see the same face. Despite revolving around its own axis, we never see its far side from Earth. This is due to a phenomenon called tidal locking. The moon takes exactly the same amount of time to rotate once on its axis as it does to orbit the Earth. As a result, the same hemisphere constantly faces us, while the other remains hidden from view. Interestingly, tidal locking is not unique to our moon. Many exoplanets discovered beyond our solar system are also locked to their stars, meaning one side is in eternal daylight while the other is in perpetual darkness. If such a condition were ever to occur with the Earth and the Sun, half of our planet would burn under endless day, while the other half would freeze in everlasting night, a reminder of the delicate balance that sustains life on Earth. The Qur'an describes the motion of the moon with remarkable precision, long before humanity understood its orbital mechanics. It says, "He it is, who made the sun a shining brightness and the moon a light, and ordained for it mansions, manazil, so that you might know the computation of years and the reckoning. Allah has not created this but in truth. He makes the signs clear for those who understand." Here, the word manazil refers to the moon's stages or positions in the zodiac, through which it travels as it orbits the Earth. Each of these stages corresponds to the phases of the moon, which the Qur'an further describes. "And the moon, we have ordained for its stages till it returns like an old dry palm branch." This vivid imagery captures the moon's gradual thinning at the end of its cycle, as its crescent fades into the darkness of the new moon, appearing frail and curved like a withered date stalk. But the Qur'an also extends this celestial story to the ultimate fate of the sun and moon, when the sight is confounded and the moon is cracked, and the sun and the moon are joined together. Basil Altay explains that this description aligns perfectly with astrophysical expectations. As the sun nears the end of its life, it will expand into a red giant, its outer layers swelling outward until they reach the orbit of Earth. In that state, the sun could indeed join with the moon, engulfing it completely. Altai points out that the Quran's choice of the word cracked for the moon is profound. It does not merely refer to an eclipse, as some have suggested, but to a literal fracturing or breaking apart. This could be the result of immense tidal forces and intense heat exerted by the swollen red giant sun, tearing the moon's crust apart as it is drawn closer. Another verse reinforces this imagery. The hour has drawn near, and the moon has been split. If we interpret this in the context of the universe's final moments, it may describe the last lunar conjunction, when the moon lies directly between the Earth and the sun at the end of its cycle. During this alignment, as Altai notes, the moon would be at its nearest point to the sun, making it the first to be swallowed by the fiery expansion. Thus, the Quran's verses not only describe the moon's regular motion and phases with scientific clarity, but also foretell its cataclysmic end, linking celestial order and cosmic collapse in a single divinely woven narrative. Among all the celestial bodies mentioned in the Quran, the Earth holds the most prominent place. The Quran refers to the Earth 451 times, more than any other object in the heavens, often pairing it with the sun in verses that highlight balance, order, and purpose. In Arabic, the word al-ard carries several layers of meaning, each depending on context. At times, it refers to a specific piece of land, as in the verse, "Do you not see that Allah sends down water from the sky, and the earth becomes green?" Here, earth points to the soil that revives with life after rainfall. In other places, it denotes a territory, city, or kingdom, as in, "Indeed, Pharaoh exalted himself in the land," al-ard. In this usage, it represents human civilization, power, and dominion. And in yet another broader sense, the word describes our entire planet, the home of humanity amid the cosmic expanse. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, are signs for those who understand. Thus, the Quran uses the same word, al-ard, to describe everything from a humble patch of soil to the vast, life-bearing world we inhabit. The Quran contains several remarkable indications of the Earth's rotation, expressed in a way that reflects both poetic beauty and scientific precision. One of the clearest references lies in how it describes the succession of day and night. He created the heavens and the earth with truth. He wraps, yukawir, the night over the day, and wraps the day over the night. Dr. Basil Altai draws attention to the word yukawir, a term that carries the imagery of something being rolled or wrapped around in a circular motion. In classical Arabic, the same verb was used to describe the act of wrapping a turban around the head. Thus, the verse implies that the night and day are continually enfolding each other in a rotational pattern, much like the overlapping coils of a turban, a vivid expression of the Earth's rotation on its axis. Such linguistic precision is rare, even in Arabic, and it reflects the Qur'an's profound choice of words to hint at natural phenomena centuries before their scientific discovery. Another verse reinforces this concept from a different angle. "And he placed firm mountains on the earth, lest it should shake or tumble with you." Here, the key word tamida, is derived from mail, to lean or tilt, but with an added implication of motion, suggesting not a mere static tilt, but one accompanied by movement. The verse subtly points out that without the stabilizing role of mountains, the Earth's surface could become unstable, tumbling as it moves. Together, These verses convey a strikingly accurate image: the Earth as a rotating balanced body, spinning steadily in space, its motion delicately stabilized by the very structure of its crust. The Qur'an's word choice thus captures, with poetic precision, both the rotational dynamics and the geophysical stability of our planet. Some people have argued that the Qur'an describes the Earth as flat, often citing the verse, "And after that, he spread the earth." However, such a claim arises from misunderstanding both the language and the context of the verse. As mentioned earlier, the word earth in the Quran carries multiple meanings. It can refer to a specific piece of land, a region or country, or the entire planet depending on the context. Dr. Basil Altai explains that linguistically, the word dahaha does not mean flattened in the sense of making something flat like a plate. Rather, in Arabic etymology, it means to spread or level, whether by natural or artificial means. The verse that follows immediately mentions how Allah brought forth water and vegetation from the land, which suggests that the spreading here refers to the leveling of certain regions of the earth to make them suitable for habitation, agriculture, and life, not to the overall shape of the planet. Furthermore, as we saw in another verse, he wraps the night over the day and wraps the day over the night. The Arabic word yukawir, meaning to roll, perfectly captures the image of one half of the globe being in darkness while the other is in light. This rolling sequence of day and night is only possible on a spherical, rotating planet. Another verse adds to this understanding, "And each one is floating in its own orbit." This applies to the sun, moon, and earth alike, all moving smoothly through space according to divine law. The Quran, therefore, explicitly describes the earth as a floating celestial body, not a stationary or flat surface. When Allah says, "He placed mountains upon the earth so that it does not shake with you," it does not imply that the earth is motionless. Rather, it means that mountains act as stabilizers, reducing tectonic instability and allowing life to flourish. Thus, when all these verses are read together, it becomes clear that the Quran does not describe a flat earth. Instead, it portrays a world that is spherical, rotating, and floating in the vastness of space, entirely consistent with modern scientific understanding and expressed through the precise and eloquent language of revelation. The word day is mentioned 57 times in the Quran, while night appears 92 times. The Quran says, "He covers the night with the day, which is in haste to follow it, and he has made the sun, the moon, and the stars subservient by his command." Here, the day is described as covering the night and hastening to follow it, a description that aligns beautifully with the continuous rotation of the earth. The Quran also likens the covering of day over night to a veil, suggesting that daylight is not universal, but limited to one region at a time. This is scientifically accurate, as day exists only on the sunlit half of the earth, while the other remains in darkness. Another verse deepens this image. "And a sign for them is the night, from which we peel off the day, and they are left in darkness." The expression "peel off" perfectly captures the gradual transition from day to night, as if layers of light are removed from the earth. Dr. Basil explains that the Quran's use of the word peel, naslahu, in describing the transition from day to night, carries profound meaning. The term perfectly fits the scientific reality of how daylight operates on Earth. Daylight is not simply the presence of sunlight, but the result of the Earth's atmosphere scattering sunlight in all directions. This scattering allows us to see even in shaded areas without direct exposure to the sun. On the moon, however, which lacks an atmosphere, Light is not scattered. Objects are visible only under direct sunlight, and the rest remains in total darkness. On Earth, by contrast, even the space under a table or behind a wall is faintly illuminated because of atmospheric scattering. The Qur'an's imagery becomes even more remarkable when we consider that the Earth's atmosphere is an extremely thin layer, only about 100 kilometers thick, compared to the Earth's radius of 6,000 kilometers, a mere 1.6% of its size. This proportion is roughly like the thinness of a cow's skin compared to its whole body. Thus, when the sun sets and the daylight fades, it is as if the thin skin of light is peeled away from the earth, exactly as the Qur'an describes. It is also significant that the Qur'an says the day is peeled off from the night, not the other way around. This reflects the scientific truth that darkness is the natural state of the universe, while light is temporary and localized. The moon's sky, for instance, remains black even when illuminated, while Earth's atmosphere allows scattered light to create brightness. Hence, the Qur'an consistently mentions night before day, a subtle yet profound reflection of both cosmic reality and divine eloquence. The Qur'an alludes to the possibility of humans venturing beyond the earth, emphasizing that such a feat requires immense power and authority. O assembly of jinn and men, if you are able to pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, then pass. You cannot pass except with authority. This verse acknowledges not only the concept of space travel, but also the need for advanced means, technology, energy, and permission granted by divine law to achieve it. The Qur'an also gives a striking description of the nature of outer space. And even if we opened for them a gate into heaven and they kept ascending through it, they would say, "Our eyes have been dazzled. Rather, we are a people bewitched." This verse captures the exact experience of what astronauts later described: the sudden transition from the brightness of the atmosphere to the overwhelming darkness of space. Within the atmosphere, sunlight scatters through air molecules, creating daylight. But once beyond that thin veil, light no longer scatters and darkness prevails, as if one's eyes were veiled or deceived. Dr. Basil notes that it is astonishing how precisely the Qur'an uses the term yaruju and its derivatives whenever describing motion in the heavens. This word specifically refers to ascending along a curved path, an expression that aligns remarkably with what modern physics calls geodesic motion. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, all movement in space, whether of planets, light, or energy, follows curved trajectories shaped by gravity. Even light itself bends as it travels through the warped fabric of space-time. This concept appears repeatedly in the Qur'an. He regulates the command from the heaven to the earth, then it ascends, yaraju to him in a day the measure of which is 1,000 years of your reckoning. Here, the ascent of the divine command is not linear but curved, echoing the natural motion of everything in the cosmos. The Qur'an also tells us, "The angels and the Spirit ascend, taruju, to him in a day the measure of which is 50,000 years." Even the angels, it seems, move along these celestial paths, following the same fundamental curvature that governs all cosmic motion. A similar expression occurs in other verses as well. He knows what enters into the earth and what comes forth from it, what descends from the heaven and what ascends yaraju thereto. Each of these verses reflects an extraordinary precision in language, revealing a harmony between Quranic expression and the scientific understanding of motion in the universe. There is much more to explore. The magnetic field of the earth, the rain cycle, the formation of clouds, the stars scattered across the heavens, the oceans and rivers that sustain life, and even the nature of time itself. All of these wonders are mentioned in the Qur'an for those who reflect. As Allah says, "We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth."